A young woman stood on a metro platform, staring directly at a camera. She didn't move. She just stared. Tom, who worked as a security guard, noticed the girl staring and instantly felt something was wrong. But when he stepped out of his booth to go to her, she was gone. He knew he had to call the police immediately. But when the police arrived, they had unexpected news for him. The police arrived soon after Tom's call, but when he showed them the footage, they told him there was nothing they could do. Not yet, at least. The woman didn't seem to be in direct danger, and she wasn't even at the station anymore. But Tom knew something really strange was going on here. The rest of the day, Tom was on edge. And the worst part was, he had to work a double shift. He would usually go home around 6, but today he worked the evening shift as well. This wouldn't be a problem for Tom had he never seen the woman. But now, Tom felt frightened, and he wouldn't go home anytime soon. The sun went down, and the station got eerily quiet. And just as Tom's nerves started to settle down, he saw a familiar shape walking on the platform. He recognized her immediately, but something had changed, giving Tom chills down his spine. But what was the woman doing on the platform? Why was she staring at the camera, and why was Tom so frightened of her? A metro station is a place where many things happen at once. People get off, and on the metro, they wait or go home. You could get robbed, or you could find love. But what happened today at the metro station in Brooklyn shocked everyone who had ever traveled through there. It started off as a typical day. Tom arrived at the station in the early morning hours and started his shift as a security guard. He watched as the station filled with people going to work. This was one of his most stressful hours, as he had to be very focused to spot any suspicious behavior among all those people. Luckily for Tom, nothing out of the ordinary happened during rush hour. So he leaned back in his chair and ate a little snack. Normally, he could sit back and relax after that, but today was different. Little did Tom know today was a day he would remember for the rest of his life. Hours ticked by, and Tom got on with his work. The day seemed like any other day, so Tom had no reason to be worried. He got a call on his phone and answered without hesitation. "Hi," he said happily, and he walked out of the booth for some fresh air. That's when it happened. Tom returned to his booth only 5 minutes later. But a lot can happen in only 5 minutes. He looked at the screen, expecting to see a deserted metro station with only 2 or 3 people minding their own business. But he saw something different. Tom scanned the screen and suddenly noticed a woman. It wasn't out of the ordinary to see women in the metro station. They travel through there just as much as men. But there was something about this woman. Tom looked at her, and the woman looked at him. It felt like she was looking straight at him, but through the camera. Tom froze. He stared at the woman for a few minutes, and during those minutes, she stared back. The whole time, never breaking eye contact. This baffled Tom. She couldn't see him. He was a few feet away in a blacked-out booth. So why did it feel like she was looking straight at him? Suddenly, Tom was awoken from his stare-down with the woman. A metro arrived. A few people stepped out of the metro, and only 1 or 2 got on. Tom watched as the metro left again and figured the woman would be gone. But she wasn't. She was still in the same spot, staring at the camera with a strange look on her face. By now, Tom was getting freaked out a bit. This woman gave him the creeps, and he wondered why she was staring so intensely at the camera the whole time. Could there be something serious going on? Maybe she was having a stroke? Tom got up and stepped out of the booth. He looked around, but to his surprise, the woman was gone. How is this possible? He returned to his booth and looked at the footage again. And yes, the woman was really gone. But Tom wasn't one to let go easily. He had to see which way she had gone. So he rewound the footage. As if the woman knew Tom was about to step out, she quickly ran away. She didn't take the metro, and when Tom rewound the footage even more, he noticed she didn't arrive with a Metro 8er. She walked up the platform, stared directly into the camera for a few minutes, and left again. Why would anyone do that? Tom couldn't shake the feeling something could be wrong, so he decided to call the police. Maybe they had more information about the woman. She could be a fugitive or a criminal, so they might recognize her from somewhere. But when the police arrived, they had some disappointing news for Tom. The police looked at the footage and agreed that it was rather strange. But the woman did nothing wrong, and she didn't seem to be in immediate danger, so there was nothing the police could do. Tom was very disappointed, but understood the police couldn't solve this case, so he decided to do something else. As was told before, Tom was no quitter. He had his sights set on the woman and couldn't stop thinking about her. So he posted a message in a WhatsApp group he shared with his colleagues. And to his surprise, one of his colleagues contacted him in private with a chilling message. Apparently, Tom's colleague, Jonathan, had seen the women before. She came to the station where he worked last year and did the exact same thing. He always wondered why she did that, but figured she might have been going through something, so he let it go. But Tom's message awakened a scary memory. Jonathan seemed very frightened. Tom couldn't see or hear him, but he felt the fear through his messages. This woman really did a number on his colleague, and Tom would never forget what Jonathan said last. "This woman is bad news. I never went back to that station after that horrible day." She apparently frightened Jonathan so much, he asked to be transferred to another station that same day. But when Tom asked Jonathan to tell him more, he went silent. Jonathan stopped replying to Tom's messages and even ignored his calls. Shit, Tom thought. What the hell is going on here? The rest of the day, Tom was on edge. He had to work a double shift, which wouldn't have been a problem, if not for the woman. Now he felt uneasy, and going home wasn't an option. As the sun set, the station grew eerily quiet. Just as his nerves started to settle, he saw a familiar shape on the platform. Shoulder-length dark hair, leather jacket, light-colored jeans. Turn around, Tom thought. She did, slowly, confidently, this time with a slight, unsettling smile, the kind seen in horror movies. A chill ran down his spine. He locked the booth door and dialed 911. The police had been useless before, but maybe this time they'd arrive in time. Tom remained inside, studying her. No visible weapons, yet his fear only grew. What was she planning? Minutes crawled by. The police didn't show. Tom felt alone. She hadn't moved for 30 minutes, still staring at the camera. His patience frayed. He considered rushing at her, but then something changed. She was signing something. Tom leaned closer, transfixed. He could have stepped outside to confront her, but he was locked in place, watching the screen as if under a spell. Her smile vanished. Her expression hardened. Then she moved. Shit, Tom muttered. She was heading straight for his booth. He jumped to lock the door, relieved to find it was already secured. He turned back to the screen, tracking her every step. Tom waited, watching the woman approach. Expecting a knock, he turned toward the door, but it never came. When he checked the screen again, she wasn't walking past his booth. She was standing right in front of his door, staring straight into the camera above it. It was as if she wanted to be seen. Tom hesitated. Should he open the door or stay inside and call the police again? They had been no help before. He needed another solution. Then it struck him. He could use the intercom to speak to her without leaving his booth. Using it for personal matters was against the rules, but this situation seemed to warrant an exception. Tom pressed the button, and a high-pitched beep echoed through the empty station. The woman looked up in confusion, clearly not expecting it. A tense silence followed. "Ma'am," Tom finally spoke, voice slightly unsteady. He cleared his throat and tried again, firmer this time. "What are you doing here? Why are you staring into the camera?" The woman's expression changed. She looked more confused than menacing. Just as she opened her mouth to answer, 2 police officers suddenly tackled her from behind, pinning her to the ground. Tom jumped in shock, then rushed outside. The fear he had felt moments before was gone. Now he just wanted to help her. "Stop!" he shouted at the officers, but they had already cuffed her. Tears streamed down her face. "What are you doing?" she cried. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for causing a disturbance." "Wait," Tom insisted. "Let me talk to her first." The officers exchanged glances but allowed it. Tom gently took her by the arm. "What's going on?" She looked at him, bewildered. "Don't you remember?" he asked. "You were acting so strangely that I called the police." Instead of answering, she burst into laughter. Tom stared, trying to understand. When she finally stopped, she wiped her tears and met his gaze. "You're so stupid." Tom frowned. He had just stopped her from being arrested, and now she was insulting him. "What?" he demanded. "You're so wrong," she said, smiling in a way that no longer seemed eerie. She touched his arm, and something inside him shifted. "I wasn't trying to hurt you." "Then why were you acting so strange? Why stare at the cameras and leave, only to return?" She hesitated, then sighed. "I was trying to get your attention but was too nervous to knock." "Why?" She smiled. "I pass through this station every day. One morning, I saw you walking to your booth. You looked so handsome in the morning sun. Since then, I couldn't stop thinking about you." Tom finally understood. She wasn't a threat. She was interested in him. He chuckled at how ridiculous the situation had become. In the end, he agreed to go on a date with her. They ended up really liking each other and are now happily married. The story of how they met remains their favorite to tell.